Welcome to the Jinn&Tonic show on Friday, the 6th of January, 2017. A warm New Year's welcome to everybody who will be joining us. Today we're going to be talking about Islamic ethics. So I guess along the lines of morality, what is it that Muslims believe and how do they act based on their beliefs? And I think it'll be an interesting show. Last week we talked about the moral landscape and secular ethics, and I have got a couple of videos, and I believe that I've got it working this time that I can show. So we'll see how the show goes. We'll wait for a couple of people to join in, and we'll see whether we play a couple of videos to show a few of the views of Muslims in terms of their morality, their ethics. In particular, the two videos that I've got are, hey, welcome Abu. How are you, sir? Oh, he's on his mic there, so he'll come in and join us shortly. There you are.
Hi. How are things?
Welcome. How are you? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yes, to you too, sir.
Thank you.
Are you well?
I'm fine. I'm a bit. I just sat down here, and but it's fine.
Good. Well, you just made it in time then. Chandradu 2010 Chandradu says Happy New Year, everyone. Happy New Year to you too, sir. So I was just saying that obviously we'll be chatting about Muslim ethics or morality. Obviously we talked about the moral landscape and secular morality last week, and I've got a couple of videos, and I have got the program Minicam, so hopefully I can actually play a video if that's useful. We can go along and run a video. People will be able to hear it now, etc. So Ike kindly recommended it, and I've been playing with it a little bit today. I've got the free version, but if it works well tonight, then I'll buy it, and it'll allow me to do a bit more sort of live editing.
Yeah, I haven't prepared so much. I have just. There are a few, 2 Qur'an verses and 2 hadiths.
Oh, that's absolutely fine. As I say, that's absolutely fine. We can talk about that. As I say, I've got the videos where we can watch. One's a 15-minute video, which might be a bit long, but the other one I've edited down to about 6 minutes with my dear friend Mansour from Speaker's Corner, talking about what happens with women, when they want to divorce or they're disobeying their husbands, etc. So that could prove interesting. But I think we'll sort of start with yours, and there's a welcome to our good friend Stop Spamming, I think it is, has also joined us.
Hey, hi guys. Well, I have to. I hope the guy's going to come today who wants me.
Yes, Stops and I chatted on Skype, and believe there's a gentleman that wants to have a conversation with Stops, or perhaps all of us, but I'm happy to listen in.
He wants to rip my balls out.
Well, hopefully he'll come on here and he can speak English and have a conversation. I don't know that he's going to be able to do that unless he tries to do it virtually.
Should I start reading this?
Yeah, go ahead.
A good introduction, because
okay, go ahead.
Maybe no. I want to read it in Arabic because no one understands. Read it in. Okay, so this is from the Qur'an. And the translation is, "You are the best nation produced as an example for mankind. You enjoy what is right and forbid what is wrong and believe in Allah. If only the people of the scripture had believed, it would have been better for them. Among them are believers, but most of them are defiantly disobedient." So this is the important part. You are the best of nation. You are the best nation produced as an example for mankind. You enjoy what is right and forbid what is wrong and believe in Allah. So this is about morality. I don't know if this translation is that convincing, but in Arabic it's more تأمرون بالمعروف وتنهون عن المنكر. And another verse is, "There has certainly been for you in the messenger of Allah an excellent pattern for anyone whose hope is in Allah and the last day, and who remembers Allah often. This too, it doesn't sound as good in English, but anyway, the point is that you have a good example in the Prophet. So whatever the Prophet does, that is a good example for anyone when it comes to ethics and morality. And here is an hadith from Sahih Muslim. This is my translation, so I can't blame anything on so anyway, Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her, said when she was asked about the Prophet's character / ethics, peace and blessings be upon him, she said, his character / ethics was the Qur'an. Sahih Muslim. So in Arabic they use this word khuluq or akhlaq they use that for both ethics, morality, but also for kind of what character you have. So that's they only use that word. So sometimes it comes up confusing. But his ethics or his character, his behavior was the Quran when she was asked about it. And where is this from? This is also my translation. This is from both Bukhari. I don't know. I remember where it's from, but Sheikh Albani says that this is. I think it's both from. Anyway, our beloved one, peace and blessings be upon him, said, "Truly, I was sent to complete good ethics / morality / character to complete the akhlaq, this word that they use for both ethics, morality, and character. So that's what he did. He came to complete, to make it full. So these verses and two hadithain is, if you keep them in mind when you read the seerah of the Prophet Muhammad and all of the hadith, you will understand that this is, when you read the seerah about the Prophet Muhammad, that is the ethics of Islam and all the things that the Prophet Muhammad did.
Yes, so it's obviously quite a general view, isn't it? So, and most religious books say the same thing. You know, we've got the correct way, etc. And I guess that's like the foundation, and then all the specifics come on top of that, and that's kind of the reference verses and the hadiths. Is that right?
Yeah, but it's also the reason why I said this is like it's kind of bragging. You are the best nation that has been produced, or is there is certainly in the messenger an excellent pattern, and like his khuluq, his ethics and character was the Quran. And then you read all the things that the Prophet Muhammad did, like he was doing all these raids and the battles, and he married his adopted son's wife, and he married a 6 or 9 year old girl, and he massacred the Bani Qurayza and did all these kind of things. So that's the ethics.
Yeah, it's a huge arrogant claim, I think.
Yeah, and you have an excellent pattern in the Prophet, as is said in Quran and in this hadith. His khuluq was the Quran. Truly, I was sent to complete the ethics.
Yeah,
and among the ethics is to massacre Jewish tribes and marrying 6-year-old girls and whatever.
What hits the Muslims the most is when I show them, and I demonstrate this using Sahih Hadith, that he went and encouraged his men to go and enjoy the orgasm when they are raping female captives before they sell them on the slave market. This is what causes Muslims to listen up and say, the Prophet never said that. This is our Prophet. He was the best person on the planet. And then I give them the list. And I have a list of I think 8 or 10 or even 12 hadith, Sahih hadith from Muslim and from Bukhari, who are all being graded as being as authentic. and they can't do anything about it. That is what it says. This is the ethics of Muhammad, who sees absolutely nothing wrong with raping these girls.
I mean,
Stops. Have you actually got the? Have you actually got those verses that you could share your screen and so we could see them at some point?
Do you have some of these hadith things? Because
Sure.
I had the intention to gather this kind of stuff, but I got busy with a lot of things, so I never got time to do it.
Well, I think Stops will have a look for those now and share those
if you can find them.
And typically, whenever this is brought up, and I hear Muslim apologists in Speaker's Corner talk about it, there's always some excuse for this. There's always some reason why this is okay. Now, this particular one I'll be interested in because I'm hopefully going to go on Sunday. So if Stops can share some of these, I will take these along and go, hey guys, here's your authentic hadiths, explain this. And I will just let them explain it. I may interject if I hear them talking nonsense or what I think is nonsense. But if I can get it on camera, then at least we can hear what their quote explanation is for, whatever these hadiths actually say.
Yeah.
Because the other thing you said there was that he came to complete. What did he come to complete? What wasn't complete? What part of
لأتمم الأخلاق, to complete the akhlaq, the ethics and the conduct and things like that.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
I think Stops has got it up there. Stops, if you take over there, and you can share your screen there.
I found some hadith about Bani Qurayza.
What would be interesting is to know what ethics weren't right or complete that Muhammad came along to do, to complete, as you say. Because yes, he came along to complete, but what exactly did he complete?
Funny thing
Which
is that,
ethics?
Before Islam, the Arabs had a very living tradition of bards. Do you call it that? Like people doing singing lyrics or whatever you call it, singing poetry. A bit like Homer is called bard.
Yeah.
And in those, if you compare like the ethics of Islam with pre-Islamic, it's hard to not think that actually the pre-Islamic Arabs were at least a bit better.
Well, I'd have to compare them.
At least the pre-Islamic poets.
Yeah, whenever I hear it, the Muslim apologists tell people, either me or other people, how barbaric the Arabs were prior to Islam, and how Islam sort of civilized them to some degree.
Yeah, but is that?
And you're saying that's the opposite?
I mean, of course, this is, if you cherry pick, you can all. But there are some I just from the top of my mind now. I remember one poetry that says bad thing about this making ghazwa. How do you translate that to English?
Yeah, and T.S. Dave in the chat is going, Muhammad, personally beheading 600 to 900 people is a good thing. Maybe, Dave, if you can tell us which one you're talking about.
I'm looking at the hadith of that right now on sunnah.com.
Oh, okay, because I wonder if it's the same one, because I heard somebody, Muslim talking about it.
He massacred all the
guns. But the way they told it, tell me if it's the same one, because the way they told the story was, no, it wasn't Muhammad. He asked somebody else, was the leader of the people that attacked them, that were attacked by these, was it Jews or whoever it was? He asked the leader, what should I do? And I'll do whatever you say. And the leader said, no, behead them, do this. And so it wasn't actually Muhammad's decision. Now, I wonder if it's the same one or whether that's just...
I can read the hadith.
Bringing that out of their
There's a long hadith here I find, for example, Sahih Bukhari, narrated by Aisha. Saad was wounded on the day of Khandaq, i.e. trench, when a man from Quraysh called Hiban ibn al-Araq, I can see the Arabic there, so maybe I'm not pronouncing it correctly there, him with an arrow. The man was Hiban ibn Qais, the tribe of Bani Mais ibn... Okay, it's a long hadith. maybe I should pre-read it and find the interesting stuff. But the point
just give
is,
us the summary.
But the point is, he had a problem with Bani Qurayza, which is a Jewish tribe, and they kind of. I mean, it's hard to know exactly what happened because it's the victors that tell the story. But anyway, he thought that they had betrayed him, that they had given him like kind of bay'ah, and they were living there in Medina under his protection, so to speak. But then they betrayed him somehow, according to them. I mean, we don't know what really happened. And then he went there and he killed all men that had reached puberty by looking if they had pubic hair. And it was, I think it was between 400 or 600 men that they killed. So that's a massacre. I mean, it's worse massacre. Even like, I don't know what's.
But did Muhammad order it, or did he participate, or was it, as this apologist said, that he asked whoever it was that was injured, or whoever it was that these Jews?
This story that Saad was wounded, and he. Okay, I can read the hadith, and I can give you the exact answer.
Just give us the. Take a moment there and give us a short version of it.
Okay.
Yeah. Stop. So you there? If you are, please do share your screen, and you can show us a few of those hadiths.
Wrong button, sorry. Yeah, I was here, I was ready. I'm just trying to rearrange it now because I can't get it to show full screen.
Oh, okay. I'm guessing you're using Minicam as well now. I've played with it for about an hour here.
If you post the link, okay, but then you're going to be talking. But if you post the link...
but he's got...
It doesn't matter. You read it.
You mean Stop's post the link? I think he's got it all summarized there. I'm not sure if it's in a link or if it's...
Yeah, but if you want to show it on the screen, you can... but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think he's trying to get it so that he'll share just that part of the screen.
But don't you... I think you have that setting.
Oh, yeah. He's got it with screen.
You don't have to share your own screen. You can just share one app also.
Yeah, and if he's got Minicam, he can select what to share there as well, and you can sort of zoom around. It's not bad. I'm using the free version here, which is showing this icon, and here is the video that I've got. It'll start playing now, I think. Oh no, it won't. Good. So there's the video I've got, and I can swap backwards and forwards, but it only allows two cameras, and you can't. There's limitations. You can't shoot in HD. You can't, send it in HD and stuff. So I might just buy this to make it easier in future. So Mo said the ruling was from Allah. Here we go. There's somebody in the chat saying, there's TS Dave saying that, I can't see it there for a moment. Let's just see, what did he say? Mo said the ruling was from Allah. So, okay. So whatever this Muslim apologist sort of went into a long story about how this guy was injured, and Muhammad asked him, what should I do with these, treacherous people, etc. And he made the decision to behead them. And so Muhammad just carried out what this guy had said because he gave him the choice as to what to do. That's, by the sounds of it, is not an accurate account of what happened. Yes, we're still coming to the 6- and 9-year-old girl, and I want to sort of touch on some of the ethics, some of the sort of main ethics, because as Abu has read there. There's the foundational ethics, which is along the lines of, follow the prophet, etc. He's perfect. And then all the other specifics come on top of that. All right, Stops, over to you, so when you are ready. Okay, I think he's probably still just...
I cannot get this into presentation mode for some reason. I cannot get this into full screen mode. As soon as I go into presentation mode, he goes to the wrong screen, and then he doesn't show up.
We see it now.
But is it big enough? Can you actually read it?
No, but
is it...
do you have a mouse?
Yes.
Press Control, Alt, and then kind of zoom in.
Yeah, no, you don't need Control Alt. I just use control and mouse. But the problem is it doesn't do that.
No, it works. It works.
Because then it goes into the other screen, because then he's confused with what screen I am supposed to be showing. Okay, can you read this now?
Yeah, I can read.
Yeah, that's nice and clear.
Okay, then I'm fine. Okay, what this is this is from Sahih Bukhari. Okay, so this is narrated Abu Dharr that while he was sitting with Allah's apostle, he said, "Oh Allah's apostle, we got female captives as our share of booty." So in other words, they go and attack somebody, and then they take the booty, which also consists of human beings, and then they say, "We are interested in their prices," because they want to sell them in the slave market. So what is your opinion about coitus interruptus? Now, in Arabic, it's called azl. So the principle of pulling out the penis before you get an orgasm as a form of contraception is in Arabic azl. And then the Prophet said, do you really do that? It is better for you not to do it. No soul that which Allah has destined to exist, but will surely come into existence. In other words, Muhammad is saying, no, you don't need to pull out. You can enjoy your orgasm. Stay inside. Just enjoy the rape while you're at it, and don't worry about the prices which go down if this woman will get pregnant, because only God will go and determine which of these women is going to be pregnant. And this is the ethics of what Muhammad is saying is, number one, you can get war booty in the form of human beings. Number two, you're going to sell them on the slave market. And number three, before you do that, it's okay to rape them. And number four, while you're at it, enjoy it to the utmost, because only God will decide which one of those is going to get pregnant so that the price goes down. So I've got one of these, I've got two, I've got three, I've got four, I've got five, I've got six. And then I go to Sahih Muslim. And there it's also the same. I've got one, and now the formatting has gone for a ball of shit. I've got two, I've got three, I've got four, I've got five. So how many is that in total? It was, how many here? It was six. So it's 11 of these. So 11, even Sahih Muslim. Abu Sirma said to Abu Sa'id, Abu Sirma, did you hear Allah's Messenger, may peace be upon him, mentioning al-azl? And here they use the Arabic word. He said, yes, we went out with Allah's Messenger on the expedition to the Bir al-Mustalik and took captive some excellent Arab women. Wow. And we desired them, for we were suffering from the absence of our wives. But at the same time, we also desired ransom for them. So we decided to have sexual intercourse with them, but by observing azl, which is withdrawing the male sexual organ before emission of semen to avoid conception. But we said, we are doing an act whereas Allah's Messenger is amongst us. Why not ask him? So we asked Allah's Messenger, and he said, it does not matter if you do. If you do not do it, for every soul that is to be born upon the day of resurrection will be born. And then you have reference book 8, Hadith 3371. So there's 11 of these, which are all graded as Sahih, as authentic, and they are all Muslim, the favorite Muslim prophet, Muhammad, saying, yep, you can do all these things. And this is the ethics.
What's your typical responses when you, present these to Muslims?
Well, number one, they say I'm a liar. So what I've done, can I see this here? No, this one doesn't. What I've done is I've made a one-liner, putting all the references, like book 62, Hadith 137, book 67, 77, Hadith number 600. I put all those into one line, which I then keep handy, and then I copy paste, and I said, well, go and look at them yourself. I'm not even going to copy paste them because maybe you think that I have invented them. Here is the reference. Go to sunnah.com or whichever corpus Qur'an or whatever, whichever you trust, and go and look up this hadith. And then you can see for yourself, and you never hear from them again. But initially, they will accuse you of lying, of fabricating, of doing all sorts of things, that you are deceiving them, that their prophet would never do such a thing. And then if you show it to them and you give them the references, they shut up. They just disappear. They run away.
That's obviously a bit harder if they're in speaker's corner if I present this. So I'll be interested to, now that you've done it, I'll go back and pick it up on the video and I'll present this. But I'll bring it along on an iPad or an iPhone or something so they can kind of see it or look it up themselves, as you say. And I'll be interested to hear what their view is on this.
Well, what I can do
is they won't have anywhere to run. I mean, they can run away.
You can put that into your phone, and then you can just go and present them with the references. And then, I mean, everybody's got a phone with them nowadays. So you just go and tell them, okay, here's the line. Here's the summary line. Let me just find it for you. There you go. I'll just give you this one line. Put it into your phone and say, here's the reference. Go to Bukhari 3, blah, 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 blah. Go look it up. Let me see if I can put this into the chat here.
But those are all different references, aren't they? So they'd have to go and look at all of those.
Yeah, all of those are different references.
The last one you had, they seem to be, okay, because the last one seemed to be very clear that the very last one you read seemed to be quite clear about it there, and it explained it, whereas the other ones are a bit shorter and so forth. Not that that's a bad thing. Oh, okay.
Because it's all about slaves. Here's okay. Let me go to Bukhari's a short one. Narrative: we got female captives in the war booty, and we used to do coitus interruptus with them. So we asked Allah's apostle about it, and he says, "Do you really do that?" Repeating the question 3 times. There is no soul that is destined to exist, but will come into existence till the day of service. So it's the same thing. It's just a shortened form.
Right. Okay.
So here you have it. And then I will do the same thing in the chat if anybody's interested.
I don't see it coming up in the main chat. Oh, there you go.
No, I'll put it there now.
Oh, okay. Because what I have heard, and you wonder what the excuse just for the slaves. Let's put aside everything else. The excuse for the slaves as well. Their men were defeated, so the conquerors are taking care of them. Otherwise, they'd kind of be left all to their own. And what would happen to them then? So, they're being taken care of as, quote, slaves. That's the response I've heard. I can't remember who did it. I've got to keep an eye out.
Yeah. This is exactly the thing. And you need to immediately counter this and say, well, excuse me, how did these people get to where they were? I mean, it's not that you need to go to an African village to take care of the women there. Take them out of their environment, take them from their husbands, take them from their family, move them 1,000 kilometers to a different continent, and then go and say, well, now I'm taking care of them.
Yes, and most often I suspect, and I'm open to correction from you, is that this was when they were attacking rather than defending. But again, I stand corrected if it's the other way around, where they're defending. But I'm assuming it's as they took more land and spread out through North Africa and Southern Europe.
No. These were slave raids. What the Muslims did is they wanted women as sex slaves. Okay, so where the Atlantic slave trade was predominantly men, so they abducted something like 6 or 7 million men as workers on the farms, whereas the Islamic slave trade, this involved something like 20 million people because a lot of them died. And they just killed the men and took the women. So they like completely annihilated entire villages just to get the women. And then a lot of them died on the way. And they wanted sex slaves. They went and they took boats and went up the coast. They went all the way from Spain. They went all the way to Ireland. In Ireland, there are references, there are records of the Saracens in those days coming into a village, grabbing the women because they were blonde or red hair or something. They were exotic. And they were fetching much higher prices at the slave markets in Damascus, for example. So they went and took those women captives. They were pure slave raids, nothing else, and then took them back to the Middle East.
And I suspect, or I might guess, that the response is, oh, well, those weren't really Muslims. Those were pirates, or they weren't, following Islam. They were just doing their own thing. It's got nothing to do with Islam.
Okay. So why is it that something bad happens, they're not Muslims, and if it's something good, they're Muslims? So if they went and prayed, and then from the mosque they went straight onto the boat and went onto a raid, when did they stop becoming Muslims?
Well, when they did the bad things. I mean, Christians and other people will say the same thing, isn't it? They'll go, when you're doing the good things, then you're following, God's commandments. But when you do bad things that we consider bad or are against the book, now, if there's something in the book about commanding them to go and get slaves, then obviously that's a problem. But if there isn't anything in the book, then they can probably talk their way around that and go, hey, but it's not in the hadiths, it's not in the Quran that Muslims are supposed to go out and conquer lands and specifically go after women as slaves.
Well, maybe these Irish women were especially ferocious, and they went and they attacked the Arabs on the Arabian Peninsula, so they had to defend themselves.
Although that would have been difficult if they were back in Ireland, and that's the accounts. So is there actual historical accounts of that?
It's so funny.
I've got about a 6-minute video here that we might want to play, either straight through or I can stop it at various points if you guys want to comment on it. And again, this is more on what happens with a woman with divorce, and this is Mansur's view. I cut it short. It was much long.
You said this about Bani Qurayza. I actually found a hadith that probably supports your idea in Sahih Muslim. Or these guys claim that it was a Sahaba. Okay, the hadith is, Sa'd was wounded on the day of battle of the ditch. A man from the Quraysh called Ibn al-Araq shoot at him an arrow which pierced the artery in the middle of his forearm. The messenger of Allah, peace and blessings be upon him, pitched a tent for him in the mosque and would inquire after him being in close proximity. When he returned from the ditch and laid down his arms and took a bath, the injured Gabriel appeared to him, and he was removing dust from his hair as he had just returned from the battle. The latter said, "You have laid down arms. By God, we haven't yet laid them down. So march against them." The messenger of Allah, may peace and blessings be upon him, said, "Where?" He pointed to Bani Qurayza. So the messenger of Allah, may peace be upon him, fought against them. They surrendered at the command of the messenger of Allah, may peace be upon him, but he referred the decision about them to Sa'd, who had just been wounded, who said, "I decide about them that those of them who can fight be killed, their women and children taken prisoners, and their property distributed among the Muslims." So that's a bit he was there, but it is as if the guys that wrote this hadith, can I give an example? Have you read Niccolo Machiavelli's The Prince?
No.
Anyway, but in The Prince there is there's a story about how Cesare Borgia, he has this kind of thuggish guy that everybody fear. So in order to bring peace, or like peace, but union to the Romagna, he sends this thuggish guy, and then he like by brute force can pacify the Romagna. But then afterward, Cesare Borgia kills him by like leaving him in the... Anyway, he kills that guy, and then everybody in Romagna is very happy and say, "Oh, it was not Cesare Borgia's fault, it was this thuggish guy's fault." So he point another guy to do the dirty work for him. And it is as if the guys that wrote this hadith are making the same thing. Listen, so the messenger of Allah, may peace be upon him, fought against them. They surrendered at the command of Allah's messenger. So he was there. The Allah's messenger had the command, but he referred the decision about them to Sa'd. So he let Sa'd do the dirty work.
But this happens quite often. Isn't that also the case where he asked around, who is going to rid me of that woman? And somebody said me, and he went and killed her.
Yeah. It happens many times. But it as if the guys that wrote this hadith, because this hadith were probably written hundreds of years afterwards, it is as if they know that we shouldn't really say that it was the messenger of Allah who ordered these guys.
Yeah.
We say it was Saad. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Rob, what the question, half the punishment is that there's a difference between the punishment for a slave girl and for a free woman. If a free woman goes and commits adultery, in other words, has sex with a guy, then she gets 100 lashes. If she was married, she's going to get stoned. Not according to the Quran, by the way, but according to hadiths. And then for a slave girl, it's half that. Because I just see that in the chat that somebody's asking this. But this is exactly the ethics that you can get. Number one, do as I say, but not as I do, because Muhammad has a special rule for just about everything. I mean, he can marry as many women as he wants. All he has to say is, I like this woman, poof, and he's allowed to have sex with her because it's an honor for the woman to have sex with him. If a woman looks at him, poof, he can have sex with him because she looked at him. So, you know, this is so hypocritical. And Muhammad can go and he can do no wrong. I mean, whatever, this is like God in the Old Testament. Like he kills because he was wicked in the eye of the Lord. And that's all you get. That's all you get. If the Lord thinks somebody is wicked, poof, he can just go and kill him. And the same is true with Muhammad. It's absolutely ludicrous. The special rights. This is why in one hadith, Aisha actually says, you know, that it's funny that the Lord comes to his rescue very quickly and pampers him with I forgot the wording now. Pampers him with every wish that he has. His Lord immediately fulfills his dreams.
Yes, I've kind of heard a similar thing. So whenever something happened, he, at some points, miraculously got a vision, or it was revealed to him something that would allow him to continue doing whatever it might have been that previously wasn't so good.
Yeah, because he had sex with Maria, his slave. Okay, she was a Christian, a Copt. And then his wife Hafsa came and she said, well, I want to have sex. It's my turn today. It's Thursday. You know, Thursday is my night to receive the heavenly organ of Muhammad. And he said, well, I'll just do, you know, Maria a little bit and then you can join later. And then she came back and he was still busy with Maria. And she got so angry. And in South Africa, we call this, she got the murren. So then he went and said, well, you can't do that because now you're angry with me. And she went to all the other women and said, listen, what is Muhammad doing? This is how he's treating me. And then in chapter 66, it says, listen, you need to be grateful for what the man gives you. You can't go and complain if he has sex with somebody else. So this is the typical example where Muhammad does something and it's not seen as being nice by others, and then the Quran rescues him.
Yes, yeah, that's.
I think Kiv in the chat gave a good argument. If they will refer to this hadith that it was Saad that made the decision. So he said, so Hitler was innocent because he himself didn't commit genocide. So Adolf Hitler appointed the guys like who was it? Heinrich Himmler to set up the concentration camps and all these things. So it was not
by that logic, then even Heinrich Himmler isn't actually guilty either because he didn't do it.
Because he appointed other guys.
Other people did it. So obviously you can't get away with that.
Neither were the people because they were just following orders.
But the funny thing is that it sounds weird now, but during when Hitler was alive, there were rumors about concentration camps and things like that. And people said that, if only the Führer knew about this, he would put a stop to this immediately because he wouldn't do anything wrong. So it's the same kind of thinking.
Yeah, same thing.
But actually, as far as I'm aware, and I've heard it a couple of times at Speaker's Corner, that they don't think Muhammad is perfect. He's made mistakes, but I don't think it's moral mistakes. That's the difference as far as I understand. He's made mistakes as in he's got something wrong, he was confused, this, that, and the other. So they don't claim he's a perfect person, which obviously the Christians claim for Jesus. But I guess what they do claim is that he's never made a moral error.
But they say that he is the best person he's the best of the best. There is no better person ever. And
yeah, but they don't claim he's perfect.
in this case, as you said, Gabriel was there. It's a command of God and all these kind of things. The apostle of God won't do anything that isn't approved by God. So it's not
T.S. Dave was just making this argument with Euthyphro's dilemma. I think the people, I mean, even this gay Muhammad, the tall guy, he was also, like, I watched a video where he talks about philosophy, and in philosophy, but I don't think they actually understand philosophy, because Tsortzis was also doing that. Hussein is following now. It's philosophy, but they don't understand it. They don't know. They only know how to drop some names and how to put like one sentence out there. And they say, this is what Hume said, this is what Kant said, this is what Nietzsche said, and blah, blah. And then if you go and look what they claim, what that person said, it doesn't really work. So going into, this is what Rob has been trying as well. He's been trying philosophical argument or argumentation approach, and they fail completely. They do not know how to handle that.
You know, I actually have to say, if you look at, you know, I amuse myself sometimes at looking at like Arabic television, and sometimes they have some kind of sheikh that is like talking about different philosophers, and sometimes they talk about different religions. Like maybe they talk about Buddha one program, and then one program they talk about Nietzsche, and then they talk about Hume or whatever. And it's amazing how many factual things they just lie about. These guys, they lie about Buddhism, they lie about Nietzsche, they lie about Hume, whatever, and they don't care to look it up. Well, did these guys really say this? Is that I just find it amazing. I never see this kind of direct kind of false claim in the same way in Western media or Western talk shows.
Yeah, because you're not allowed to be questioned. You're supposed to obey. And if the man on the television says it must be true.
Yeah, but
well, also
he's supposed to be some kind of scholar that is like he's the expert. He's supposed to be a kind of Nietzsche expert, and then he like just say things that are so wrong.
And with the the beheading, this is, I don't think this is hadith. This is sirah.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't plan on people actually looking things up, because they also keep quoting, and I saw it again recently in the video, and I've heard it live as well, about the study in Oxford about the fitna, I think I pronounced it correctly, the innate disposition. And of course they've studied it, and they've come up with a study that shows that people are born with a belief in God. No, that's not what the study said. I've gone to read it. It just says that young children are much more likely to believe in stuff that is supernatural. They can't differentiate between natural and supernatural. It doesn't mean they believe in a God or a powerful God. They just can't tell the difference between reality and fantasy, basically. I've got it to my phone, so that's another one. It's very easy to look up.
Yeah, but they are good at looking up, for example, a hadith and things that inside Islam. But as soon as it comes to something that hasn't to do with Islam, it's like suddenly it's you're just free to spit out whatever lies possible. They don't care about.
Yes, yeah, and it's just they just don't think that people are going to go look things up.
I'm not saying that, but it's like I see this over and over again, and it's not like it's only in Saudi Arabia. It's like all over the Arab world. I see the same thing. Yes.
Yeah, they and I guess it's just in Speaker's Corner. There's a little bit of science thrown in, and then to try and make it sound more acceptable. But one needs to look things up. Yeah, I agree with you. Kiv is saying the fitra is BS. It certainly seems that way, and in particular if they're trying to quote the study from Oxford, which doesn't say what they say. That's the thing. If something sounds like it, what it seems to me happens is they take it and just twist it a little bit. And if it's just changed a little bit, then it's okay to quote that and to use that. Because if you go and read it up, and I've actually got it here somewhere, so I'll quickly look it up. But when you go and read it, it doesn't say that children have an innate disposition to believe in God per se. It's just supernatural. So it seems okay for them just to say certain things. Here it is, the Oxford study, belief in God is part of the human nature. One of the studies from Oxford concluded that children below the age of 5 found it easier to believe in some superhuman properties than to understand human limitations. Children were asked whether their mother would know the contents of a closed box. Three-year-olds believed that their mother and God would always know the contents. But by the age of 4, children start to understand that their mothers were not omniscient. And there's a bit more in there, but that's basically...
Hang on, Rob, what is happening there is they are smuggling in God already. How would a child know whether a God knows everything if they haven't been taught that God knows everything?
But
well, yes, also,
it's about like children in general are more susceptible to like all kinds of false claims. So it's not just they're more susceptible. Like, how come that children believes in ghosts and are afraid of ghosts, but very few adults are? That in one way, children's brains are actually a bit similar to schizophrenic people's brains, or people that I don't know, take LSD or something. There is another way. You can give people a lot of the medicine L-Dopa that they give to, what is it, Alzheimer guys, I think, and you can like increase the belief in supernatural things.
Yeah, I've looked at that study, and I've made this in a video. It was Science Something and Dawa Films, where I found exactly this, that what people are showing is that if you have Alzheimer's, you are like a kid, and then you do exactly as you mentioned, you have a propensity, a higher propensity to believe in gods, the supernatural. But what the study actually says is the ontology, what they are saying is the function is above the real explanation. So a kid will look at a tree and then ask, why do you think the tree is there? It will not say, well, it was created by a god. It will say, so that birds can sit on it. Or why is the mountain there? Well, so that we can ski down the slope. This is the kind of explanation that kids have. And this is exactly what you would expect from a 3 or 5-year-old. Come on. And from this, they go and deduce, well, then they must believe in God when asked the appropriate question. But that's not honest. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so smuggling it in.
Sorry, yeah, because Chandu was just asking, quote mine and expose them, Hamza, for example. I mean, I did this for years, okay? I've taken everything that Hamza said, and for a while, when LDM came out with their, I think it was a Wednesday or a Sunday or something, they came out on a specific day with their LDM, GDM, whatever show, and then whenever it came out, it took me maybe an hour to go and debunk or refute or whatever this, and this is exactly what I did. I showed how they were quote writing, how they were lying. So there's a lot of videos out there which show this.
I've actually got a little bit of the quote here from Oxford, and here's what Muslims and theists, I guess, in general have taken, and this shows me, or says to me, that even professors can make leaps. So, you know, we talked about the fact that they concluded that children below the age of 5 found it easier to believe in some superhuman properties than to understand human limitations. The co-director of the project, Professor Roger Trigg from the University of Oxford, said, "We have gathered a body of evidence that suggests that religion is a common fact of human nature across different societies. This suggests that attempts to suppress religion are likely to be short-lived, as human thought seems to be rooted in religious concepts such as the existence of supernatural agents or gods and the possibility of an afterlife or pre-life."
So that's Justin Barrett.
Roger Trigg, it said there.
Okay, because this is exactly what this Justin Barrett says.
Okay, but there's a leap there from children believing some superhuman abilities to then religion. There's a big leap between that, because why wouldn't they believe then in the DC comics or the Marvel here superheroes?
Exactly.
They've all got superhuman. So then to make this leap, and I see this a lot, and I'll just have a quick rant here, because my good friend at Speaker's Corner, Gary, does this as well. Brings his iPad and gives me all these, or gives other people all these links to all these professors. But when you go and ask them what the quotes were and what the inference is, which is exactly this, you can see they're making a leap. So now you've got a professor, that sounds great, and I'm sure he's good at his study, but then he goes and makes this leap that, okay, it's religion, instead of going, okay, it's superhuman. And why would you not say, well, DC Comics or, you know, superhuman abilities will be short-lived? That I could understand, because we all have this innate need, I guess, in some way to be greater than what we are, to fly, disappear, teleport, whatever it might be. I'm sure even ancient people wish they could do that sort of stuff. So why not use it like that? But instead, you go ahead and you say, oh, well, it's religion, and hence being Christian or Muslim or whatever the case is. So they make these inferences, which I don't even need to know how good he is. All I need to know is what does he claim, and then what is his conclusion. And then, of course, you know, you get people go, oh, well, you've got to bring a professor that says something different. No, I just have to look at what your professor said there and see that his inference is making a giant leap in the inference and his conclusion. So there we go. A little bit of a rant over, because I just see this a lot with, you know, professors behind their names, and you know, people take it as gospel when they've made an inference, which is exactly the opposite of somebody like an Alan Guth, who's, in my opinion, one of the leading cosmologists in the world, if not the leading cosmologist. When asked about the beginning of the universe, I'm going off on a track, but it does actually relate, he says we don't know. He could make some kind of inferences as well, but instead, you know, I think honest people go, we don't know. But some people want to just make an inference of some kind. So I'm always dubious of professors. I want to know what they said and what their conclusion was. And then, you know, I can evaluate that without having to be an expert in the study itself or the field of expertise, just what their inference is. If you guys are up for it, I will play this 6-minute video now. And this one sort of relates a little bit on the divorce of women. So what is Islam's view on divorce of women? And I'm sure Stops, you will find this fascinating. So let me just run this for 6 minutes. I mean, if you want to, just tell me to stop if you hear something that you just can't hold yourself in for, then let me know and I'll stop it. Otherwise, we'll play this short video and then see what comes of this.
So if she persists on doing that, the next step, you know what the next step is? Divorce?
No, stop having sex with her.
Stop having this marital conjugal relationship, which is part of your marriage.
Okay.
So
that doesn't work.
No, don't just jump the gun. You don't really, if you're going to be analytical, you have to really sit down and think through this situation. In a marital discord, we have this problem, and the solutions are provided. What's really happening with the psyche of the woman, Muslim woman? If she's now realizing, look, the man is stopping this marital relationship, the mutual intimacy, because marriage is now in check, it's a problem. It is a serious issue. At this time, no one else knows. The children doesn't know, your father, your mother, the neighbors, the son and the Daily Mail, they don't know either, because it's between yourself again. You're trying to protect the marriage.
Fine.
Right? So you'd expect, again, from a person with good psyche, sound psyche, to do what? Stop. And say, I'm sorry. If she returns, what do you do? Back to normal life again? Nothing happens. You're back to normal life. But if she doesn't do that, now I ask you a serious question, a scientific question. What does it tell you about her psyche?
It tells me that she doesn't want to be in that relationship.
She could just say so.
She doesn't want to be in
She could
the
just
same
say so
relationship
simply.
that I want to be.
No, she could just
Relationship isn't working.
No, she could just simply say so. It doesn't work. I want divorce.
She might still love me, but she.
Sorry?
She might still love me.
She loves you, and she doesn't respect this faithfulness.
Obviously, she doesn't love me in the way that I wish to be loved.
No, I wish. Mutual. Remember the mutual faithfulness.
We're not in. If my wife is cheating on me and just keeps on doing it, we're clearly not in the same relationship that we want.
So what?
I want to be in a relationship where she doesn't do that. She wants to be in a relationship where clearly she thinks.
So what would you do then?
So I would say if there was a real difference of opinion, again, we tried everything. Just leave her.
Right. The Quranic first injunction, the advice about reasoning, advising, and relation doesn't stop. That would have been going on. And if you realize that, if you now mutually discuss and say, look, why are you doing this? And she says, because it doesn't work anymore between us. You should go and mutually seek divorce. Simple as that. Case closed. Solutions there. But if she doesn't do any of that, instead she carries on. She says, "Oh, I'm going to still be married with you." She doesn't acknowledge that there is a serious problem in this. But it tells you about the psyche. I mean, look. If you're not a psychologist, you don't have to be a psychologist to understand that. Something's terribly wrong with your psyche. In this relationship, in this vow that you had, the contract that you had between yourself, to mutually love each other, mutually care for each other, be faithful to each other, and then one party is actually breaking that every now and then, consistently, Something's wrong with her. Right. So she needs to be corrected. She needs to be...
And how should I go about it?
Right. So what does Islam say at that time is? The next step is, look, if it's continuing like this, as he explained earlier on, the third step is beat. And you think beat means bring the bush and batter her, make a black eye and something. No, the Prophet and the companions, they understood how this should be practiced. But what we understand from this in the context of this, the spirit of the text is, this is a signal. Signal to the point that you are coming to a stage where divorce is very near. Why? Because we tried all our best to stop the marriage coming to an end. Because of maybe the 12-year-old girl that we have, right? Right. Yeah. So at least try to reconcile. Now, when I did that, put the trick across, now she realized the next step. She should realize the next step is what? Divorce. So if she persists again, knowing, because this signal is serious signal. This is the last before we separate from each other. So if she has any love, any respect, any care for the family and the children. In Islam, by the way, just one point I need to mention. It's not between one man and one wife. In Islam, a marriage is between two families. Whole families, right? We are, like that. So at that point, suppose she carries on or she wants to insist, what does Islam say? One last resort. Not divorce. No, we've done that already. She doesn't care. You go and ask what? You try to go and find an arbitrator. Now it's no longer personal between you and your wife. Now it's gone to the wider. It doesn't have to be a lawyer. It says you go an arbitrator from your family and her family. Can I finish, please? It's not going to take too long, right? Maybe 2-3 minutes. So you choose an arbitrator from the family. Now the family is involved. So they will try to reconcile this marriage.
In fact, it says one from her side and one from your side.
From each side. So you choose the arbitrator which you trust and which are wise and so on and so forth from each side. You didn't just decide, oh, let me appoint him and he decides for us. No, arbitration done from the both sides in the view of what? To reconcile this marriage. If they fail, in fact, if they wish to reconcile, God says he will make them reconcile, and that will be the end of the story. But if they can't reconcile, divorce. Now, these are the steps in a marital discord. Now, you tell me, because you disagree with it, give me a better solution.
Okay, so there is a little bit more, but I thought I'd stop it there for some thoughts already. Kif said, I shouldn't be prejudiced, but who is this kid that just grew pubic hair? He's one of the mainstays at that Speaker's Corner called Mansour. Apparently he's been going there 20 years, so I guess he's not a kid. Maybe he looks a bit like a kid. So I guess he must be in his 40s or something like that.
He's got the brain of a kid.
So yes, that's his view, and of course, right at the end, and he's famous for doing this. He did it to me the very first time I ever spoke to him last year. He shifts the burden of proof. Okay, so if you don't like this, you need to come up with something better. Well, no, I don't. I just need to point out the flaws in your position. I don't need to necessarily come up with something. Yes, I can. And it just so happens that I used to have relationship expertise. I was 4 years doing intimate relationship training and coaching and so forth. So, of course, this video was of interest to me. And what you didn't hear there was, because there was so much talking and interruption, from what I understand, the first, if your wife is disobedient and she's doing whatever she's doing, the first step is to have a talk to her, have a conversation, which I think we can all agree with.
Hang on. What is disobedient?
In his case, he obviously used the extreme example here of her having sex outside of marriage.
Okay, so what does that entail? Does that have any physical consequences?
You mean what? If she has sex outside of marriage, what will he do to her? Or what do you mean by that?
No, sex outside of marriage has dire consequences in Islam. What he is doing, he is pretending the worst case, which is normally treated by stoning, and then saying, well, actually, we are being much better. We're not stoning her, we're just beating her up. Now, I may
he doesn't even get there
if wife goes and has sex with another guy, there is something wrong in the marriage, and you are as much to blame as she is.
Well, exactly.
Look, I think you have to. This is, as you said, if she is married and she has sex outside marriage, then she should be put to death by stoning. If she is disobedient,
but that's obviously not what he's claiming. So he's claiming if there's a disagreement of some kind like this, and let's say she, having sex, because you obviously heard him there speaking to a young guy, I guess he was a non-believer of some kind, saying, well, if she doesn't want to be in the relationship, and his was, oh, well, then it's just divorce. But if they have this conversation, she says, no, I want to stay with you, but I'm still going to be unfaithful. I don't know too many people who go, well, I still want to be with you, but I'm going to be unfaithful. That just sounds like a bit of a contradiction. So I think he's just adding a little bit in there.
No. You get open relationships.
There are such relationships. I don't know if that.
Yeah, but remember what he was saying. Yeah, I agree with. I know there's open relationships. But remember what he was saying. He said she was being unfaithful. And so
you see, this is the whole point. People call it disobedient. People call it unfaithful, which I think these are misnomers right from the word go, because it depends on the kind of relationship that you had, or have. Because there are relationships where both couples agree that you can go and have sex, that it doesn't interfere with your feelings for one another. And this is just a physical sort of, letting go, taking the hormones for a walk.
Yeah, but again, that's not allowed in Islam, is it? As far as I'm aware.
That doesn't exist in Islam. And I mean, in
exactly. This is the point. This is exactly the point that I'm making, that you cannot call it disobedience or being unfaithful. In Islam, it's a sin, and that is it. It's a dire sin. It's one of the worst sins that you can do. They call it fornication, and not for nothing, and they call it unfaithful and adultery and all these other terms. It's quite funny how they go and categorize this, and then old men 1,000 years ago decide what a young woman has to do today. I mean, that's absurd.
I mean, the thing, this Qur'an verse, when like فَضْرِبُوهُنَّ, like so beat them, beat the females. I mean, that is for minor disobedience in like, I don't know what it is, what it could be. If she's not cooking the right kind of food or whatever, I don't know, whatever.
It's a shame that we didn't get the quotes there from Mansur of what he was looking at in the Quran, supposedly to justify what he was saying. Because he made it sound like beat was, oh, you just tap her, or you just, I've heard, people say, oh, you just hit her with a feather. And according to him, that's the notification that the next step is divorce.
Yeah. There is hadith about this. There's hadith about what it implies. I can look it up. Wait a
minute. And Ace is just making an excellent point. For example, if you go to Indonesia, there are regions, or even in Malaysia, there are regions where you are not allowed to sit next to a woman as a man, okay? Or a woman is not allowed to sit next to a man. It's being unfaithful. If a married woman goes, for example, sitting next to another man in a taxi, you're not allowed to do that. You are not allowed. It's crazy. If I were to go to a woman in the street in Qatar, for example, I could be killed for that. If I would approach a woman and talk to her or shake hands with her or give her a hug in public or something, if I know her quite well, even if in public, in private we do that, in public I cannot do that.
But of course, and again, maybe I don't know. I'm just, again, I want to hear what they have to say, and I'm just throwing out, because this is sort of the thing that I hear. Well, that's not proper Islam, or there's some excuse for that, because they're not going to go, oh, well, yes, it's true. Because then, of course, we in the West can go, you guys are, backward and your morality is awful, etc., etc. So there's always some way to dance around this to try and make it acceptable to Westerners, let's put it that way. That's what they seem to do in Speaker's Corner.
I found a hadith about beating women, if you want to hear.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, this is from Sahih Muslim. It's quite long. Maybe I don't know where I should start. Muhammad said, should I not narrate to you on my authority? Wait, we jump a bit, so it becomes... I said, there is nothing. He said, the subtle aware, Messenger of Allah, may my father and mother be ransom for you. And then I told him the holy story. He said, "What is the darkness of your shadow that I saw in front of me?" I said, "Yes." He struck me on the chest, which caused me pain, and then said, "Did you think Allah and His Apostle would..." No, even this is wrong. So, yes. But this is kind of funny. From Bukhari. Aisha said that the lady came wearing a green veil and complaining to her Aisha, her husband, and showed her a green spot on her skin caused by beating. It was the habit of ladies to support each other. So when Aisha's apostle, so when Allah's apostle came, Aisha said, "I have not seen any woman suffering as much as the believing woman. Look, her skin is greener than her cloths." When Abdurrahman heard that his wife had gone to the Prophet, he came with his 2 sons from another wife. She said, "By Allah, I have done no wrong to him, but he is impotent and is as useless to me as this," holding and showing the fringe of her garment. Sorry, maybe this is getting a bit intimate here.
No, it's not intimate, it's hilarious.
But by Allah, O Allah's apostle, she has told a lie. I am very strong and can satisfy her, but she is disobedient and wants to go back to Rifa. I think it's a place, I'm not sure. No, Rifa. No, Rifa was her old husband, sorry. Allah's apostle said to her, "If that is your intention, then know that it is unlawful for you to remarry Rifa unless Abdurrahman had sexual intercourse with you." Then the Prophet saw 2 boys with Abdurrahman and asked him, "Are these your sons?" And on that, Abdurrahman said, "Yes." The Prophet said, You can claim what you claim, i.e. that he is impotent, but by Allah, these boys resemble him as a crow resembles a crow. As a crow resembles a crow. I haven't prepared that much, but I just find this. Aisha said, "I have not seen any women suffering as much as the believing women." I think that is kind of telling.
Who says that? Sorry,
Aisha.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's strange whenever we hear stories.
He didn't say anything. She was green, and I mean, you heard the hadith. Did the Prophet say anything about that? Did he complain about that? Did he do anything against that? I think that is called, I don't know if it's called aggravated assault, but it's at least called assault. It's a kind of assault in most European countries today.
So actually, it's battery.
Battery. I don't know. I don't know the judicial. I'm the judicial.
So sorry, I missed that part there. She was green. I'm assuming she was beaten by somebody.
Yeah, by her husband.
Okay, but not the husband that you wanted to go back to, obviously.
No.
Right. Okay.
Just to clarify, we're talking about ethics, not just women or something. It's ethics in general, and then we got to the treatment of women somehow.
Yes, well, I guess it's just what is their view? What is the ethics on the treatment of women? Whereas, we like to think we've got a higher moral standard, which I think we do, but they want to, basically say, no, theirs is just as good. As you heard with Mansour, they're basically saying, hey, here's our holistic system in huge inverted commas. Now, if you don't like it, please bring your own one. Because what he basically said there was obviously, number one, you guys have a chat. Number two, if that doesn't work, then you get the families involved and they have a chat. You have a chat with your families. And then number three, if that doesn't work and she's still being, quote, disobedient, then you beat her, likely. And then if that doesn't work, then he talked about arbitration there, something about arbitration. And then if that doesn't work, then it's divorce. And so, if he was speaking to me, I'd be going, well, number one, yes, always have communication with each other. I mean, that's the fundamental of any relationship, husband and wife or partners having a communication with each other. Number two, get expert advice, not from family, not from arbitration, not from people that you know, but expert advice. Like I could advise pretty much anybody. Now, it's a bit of a big boast, but I've done it for 4 years, so I'm well aware and I'm fairly well trained in how to help people have a great relationship or how to overcome their problems. But what I wouldn't do... Say again?
You are not an imam.
No, I'm not an imam, so obviously that doesn't count for them. But, a family member had trouble, some years back, and I mistakenly tried to help them. Big mistake. It doesn't work. It does not work helping family. So they immediately, and I'm coming from what I believe is an expert point of view, don't go to so read it immediately. This, 5 steps, according to him, in my view, is incorrect. Don't go to family as your second port of call. Find expert relationship help. Like in the UK, they've got Relate, who are okay. They're not brilliant, but they're better than going to your family members, because family members have got call it an emotional bias. So that's not going to work. So their view on what to do. And the other question I would ask Mansour is, well, what happens if it's the other way around? What happens if a man is cheating on a woman? Does she get to have the same steps as well? Do they have a communication? Does she bring in the families? Does she then get to beat him if he still wants to stay with her? If the same applied the other way around, does the same apply?
That is the best way of doing it. But is she allowed to marry 4 men? That's it. Finished.
To be fair, he also gonna get stoned. But you know what? I have found the hadith that clearly shows that the Prophet Muhammad is the most ethical person that have ever lived. Okay, this is from Sahih Bukhari, volume 7, book 62, number 132, narrated Abdullah ibn, I don't see the Arabic, Zama or something. The Prophet said, "None of you should flog his wife as he flogs a slave, and then have sexual intercourse with her in the last part of the day," unquote. So there you have it. This is the best ethical person that has ever lived. You should not flog your wife as you're flogging your slaves. You see?
So what does that mean? What should they do then?
Well, I mean, maybe you can flog them, but not as much as you're flogging your slaves.
So it's a huge gray area, basically.
You see what I'm saying? This hadith implies that you can have slaves and you can flog them.
Yes, but you can't flog your wife as you flog the slaves.
And also, in Islam, you can have sexual slaves. So if you have a battle and you capture some female, you're like the vanquished women, then you can take them as sex slaves and have sex with them, and you can also flog them, but you shouldn't flog your wife as you're flogging your sex slave.
I'll make a mental note when I go down on Sunday to see if I can find 1 or 2 of the regulars there, see if I can record this conversation and say to them, hey, what happens when a woman disobeys? Maybe I'll get hold of Mansour, because there's a long video there which I can put in the link if people are interested to watch the entire thing, because a couple of other people jump in there as well. I think it's Abbas and somebody else jumps in as well, and they just sound so reasonable. If you knew nothing about Islam, if you knew absolutely nothing, if you were like a blank sheet, you'd listen to these guys and go, do you know what? Islam just sounds completely reasonable. They can make it sound incredibly reasonable.
I mean, the sad thing is that I would say that, I don't know, but a huge chunk of all the Westerners actually think that Islam really is this nice tradition where everything is just fine. And
I did. And I knew absolutely nothing. About 20 years ago, I remember hearing about Salman Rushdie having a death sentence against him, and I wasn't even a real Christian at that stage. And I remember thinking 20 odd years ago, do you know what? That's a good thing. He shouldn't have insulted Islam. Good on that. And I look back now and I'm going, what happened? What was I thinking?
I still to this day see kind of prime ministers and whatever kind of praising Islam as a kind of this.
Yeah, but that's a political thing. Quietly, they know, and you hear feedback every now and again. It leaks out where you hear that the private conversations where they know that's not true.
Yeah, but
So
if you're a
saying
politician, like, shouldn't you have the stamina and the like intellectual integrity to say, no, actually, I think there's something wrong here?
Yes, in a perfect world, but of course they then have got all their other things, so it's much easier just to go along with it, quite possibly, unless you're a Nigel Farage or somebody. But in the moment you're somebody like that, you immediately get labelled far right or whatever the case is, like a Tommy Robinson or whoever. You immediately get labelled far right, and of course that's like a shit smear that's very difficult to wipe off. And so
a
everybody just
fascist,
goes
racist,
racist,
Islamophobic, homophobic, transphobic, misogynist.
Yeah, so it's a lovely long list of labels there.
Because you point out that Muhammad said, none of you should flog his wife as he flogs a slave.
Yes, which is an indictment, as you say, in and of itself.
My God.
Good. Is there anything else either in the chat or anybody else wants to bring up on ethics? I did have another video, but it's a bit long, so I'm not sure, whether that would be worthwhile. It was a video with Tor Muhammad speaking to an American atheist and sort of questioning him on his morals.
No, that's atrocious.
Did you see that one?
That is exactly the one that I was just referring to.
Okay.
This, because he's constantly talking about philosophy here, and he says this, and he doesn't even understand it. You can see the way that he uses the words. He doesn't know what he's talking about, and yet he pretends as though this is like a huge thing.
Yeah, he did tie unfortunately, he did tie the atheist up a bit by his questions, because the atheist didn't have a proper answer. So he was asking him, is morality objective? Exactly. And of course, the atheist goes, no, it's not. So he goes, oh, well, is truth objective? And so then what he's trying to do is go, well, your version of morality is not objective like proper truth. In other words, you're making it up on the spot type of thing. And the moment he gets somebody to accept that proposition, then he's off and running. And the atheist had a bit of trouble with that part of it.
Well, he couldn't keep him focused, because he was constantly saying, look, the only thing that is objective that comes to mind to me now is something like mathematics. And then he says, then you are saying that mathematics is objective, and therefore that morality is like mathematics. What? No, that's not what he's saying. So he's constantly running around and turning it around and saying things that the other guy wasn't even saying. And this is so funny. Anyway, I have a couple of things that I normally use in discussions, because there's a lot of things that Muslims bring up, which is, easily countered. Because it says in the Quran, for example, O people of the book, be not excessive in your faith. So why is it that people of the book, in other words, Christians and Jews, are allowed to are not allowed to be excessive in their faith? Are Muslims allowed to be excessive in their faith? And this quickly shuts them up. I don't know. What does that even mean? Read these things that I put on the screen?
Yeah, they're very clear. What does that even mean, excessive in your faith?
Well, that you are taking everything and sort of putting it under a microscope and ascertaining whether or not it complies with what the Quran demands. In other words, if you, for example, if a woman sits next to a man, are you going to be that excessive and you're going to interpret that as already being adultery just because she's sitting next to a man? And this is what they say is excessive if people of the book do this. But Muslims, it's not being excessive. So what is excessive? So there's a lot of things like bring your proof if you are truthful. That is something that I put neatly under everyone. Just go and tell me why you believe what you believe, and tell me where you get this from. And then why then argue you concerning that you don't understand? It's in the Quran. So why are you doing something that is against the Quran? Let not the hatred of any people seduce you that you deal not justly. The same thing. If you hate me, you are not going to deal justly with me. So stop hating and try and take it from a rational point of view. And that's it. And do not work the earth the snobbish style. Avoid false statement. Don't lie. Okay, so why are you lying if it says in the Quran? Avoid false statement. It says avoid anything that clouds your mind, that covers your mind. And you say alcohol is strictly prohibited. Well, lying is strictly prohibited then. So why are you lying? And Allah does not love any arrogant boaster. And then one thing I use a lot, the harshest of all voices is the voice of the ass, because it is being used here in the context of insulting people, speaking badly of people. And then, but let not some men among you laugh at others, and this is what I use all the time. Do not insult one another. That's what it says in the Quran, and they are constantly throwing out insults left, right, and center. I'm going to fuck your sister, things like that. Do not insult one another, and do not call each other by offensive nicknames. It's in the Quran. These are the ethical sentences. Then, of course,
isn't this about the donkey? Isn't that about arrogance and bragging?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then, of course,
is this now between Muslims, or is this?
Sorry?
Is this between Muslims, or is it between Muslims and non-Muslims?
Both. Because Muslims and Muslims are very quick to declare other Muslims non-Muslims. If they think something else, then they're murtad, then they're non-Muslims.
Which in itself is really dangerous. There's a hadith, I don't know how it is in English, but it's man qala li akhihi ya kafiru faqad ba'a bi ahadima. So like the one who says to his brother, you are an infidel, so one of them is right.
But then, he's saying it to his brother. But if the guy is not his brother, he's not considered his brother anymore.
But you should be very careful of it.
Exactly. You're right.
I found another about hitting women. The best Sahaba of all Sahaba, Abu Bakr, the first Caliph, narrate in Bukhari, volume 8, book 82, number 828, narrated Aisha. Abu Bakr came towards me and struck me violently with his fist and said, quote, "You have detained the people because of your necklace," unquote. But I remained motionless as if I was dead, lest I should awake Allah's apostle, although that hit was very painful. So there you have it, the best Sahaba. That's what he do to his daughter.
Okay, I just put it into the chat just in case you want to paste this. And the best Sahaba, of course, they should know, right? And this is also another thing. If the Sahaba say something, this can have higher and more impact than whether it is in the Quran. This is the funny thing.
Yes, because you interpret the Quran by what the Salaf did.
Exactly.
Shall we? There's been a request in the chat there. I've got this other video which is about 15 minutes. We don't have to go through all of it, or we can. There's a shortened version of that conversation that Muhammad had with this American atheist. Would that be worth listening to? And we can stop and start it at certain points if we want to discuss there.
Oh, I should have saved my comment because I made a very detailed comment with time references.
Have you still got it, or?
No, it's under the video. I didn't keep it.
You mean under his video, as a comment under his video? Oh, but what is it not showing?
I don't know. I haven't checked.
But it's
a pity that I didn't keep it and save it. To be able to.
There's two of them. So I think I sent you the long one of about 1 hour and 27 minutes. But he's got it on his own channel, like the 15-minute version here, which is just the morality.
Oh, I commented on the 1.5 hour one.
Oh, okay, yeah. So that's got the universe and all that sort of stuff in there. I'm going to challenge him on that actually next time. But maybe we could do a show. Have you guys done a show on the Kalam and the?
Oh, sure. Oh, but I've got I think 3 refutations on my blog because I did several videos on this.
Have you got a link to your blog for everybody that you can pop in the chat for that?
I don't think you can put links in the chat.
Oh, okay. Well, I did. Maybe only I can and other people can't. Well, let's go ahead with this video, and if people get tired of if it's not that useful, then we can always stop it. But again, just talk over the video, and I'll stop it because it's easier for me to stop the video. And so just go, hey, Rob, or just say something, and I'll stop it. Or if I think there's something worth saying, I'll stop it, and we can just go through it and see. So there we go.
As being outside of humans. I've already conceded if the Earth were here and there were no humans on the Earth, there would not be morality. It takes us here who have compassion. So hold on, we have compassion. We prefer pleasure to pain, and we have the capability of recognizing the consequences of our action. And it's these things that make morality even possible.
Okay, so in that case,
in a sense, this condition defines...
Is morality invented by humans?
In a sense, yeah.
And is it changing?
Yes.
Can truth change?
Can truth change?
Can 2 + 2 = 4 change?
No.
Okay, so morality is not...
Rob, hang on.
Yeah.
The people don't understand what truth is, okay? They don't understand what any of this means. Because if I tell you it is raining, am I telling the truth? Yes. But if you look outside, it might be the sun that's out. So you will tell me, no, you're wrong. It's not raining. The sun is shining. So your truth is the sun is shining, and mine is that it's raining, but we're both right. So truth is subjective.
Look, this American guy, he says, he talks about compassion and that it's the pleasure and like it's like the hedonism is the base for morality.
The consequences, basically.
Yeah, and then he asked him like, does this change? And then he said, can truth change? As if truth is fixed, because he has this kind of metaphysical idea of what truth is that actually many Westerners also have, because many Westerners are steeped in Christianity. But if you think about it mathematically, like not mathematically, but like things that are true in reality can change and they are still true. So is it, as you said, if it's raining a day, is that true? Yeah, it's true. But another day it's sunning. Does that mean that sunshine and rain is not true? There's a fixed truth about sunshine and rain? No. But this whole argument is just such a... it's so...
it's hollow.
Yeah,
but there's a mistake there as well. So he jumped. Truth is a whole big topic in and of itself.
Yeah.
Like you say, there's different versions, I guess, of truth, in the sense of like philosophers have grouped truth in different ways. So that's not a good word to use. I immediately would ask him, what do you mean by truth? Can you define what you mean by truth?
Exactly.
But the bigger thing was, he asked him, can morality change? And because the atheist hasn't got a yardstick to use, his answer must be yes. So if I was speaking to Muhammad, I would be saying to him, the well-being of conscious creatures is the yardstick that I use. Can you tell me, if you think that's not a good yardstick, or you feel that's not a yardstick that we should use, can you give me something else? I say to you that is the best yardstick that we can use, period, bar none. That's my foundation. Now, the way we can measure and how we move towards more well-being for conscious creatures, that will obviously change, as it always has over centuries. But the yardstick itself won't change. But the atheist kind of is all in one here. So he has to admit, yes, well, morality can change. No, morality, the yardstick for morality won't, but morality itself, in the sense of what do we think is right and wrong, will change based on the more knowledge we gain. And how do we gain that knowledge? Through scientific observation, experience, etc., etc.
Yeah. I mean,
let's go on.
Okay.
Yeah, so you're going back to this absolutist thing again. And
yeah, of course.
I'm not,
You want me to prove God?
How about this? Let me say this.
Hang on a second.
Truth has nothing to do with God. Absolutism has nothing to do with God either.
Yes, well, I mean, I'm not looking for somebody to prove God absolutely, because I don't think there's absolute truth, or there's very few of them from what I've looked into in a little bit of philosophy. So there's very few absolute truths, really, generally speaking. So no, I'm not, he that was like a red herring. Oh, you want me to prove God absolutely. So that's what I'm going to stick with absolute, to show that you don't have absolute morality. No, well, I'm not looking for you to prove God absolutely.
I think that you just said the word red herring. That's what he is doing. And he's probably going to do it over and over again.
Yes.
I bet.
Yeah, he's going to push him here because the atheist doesn't have a yardstick that he can defend. And I'm, this is a little bit of a dig at him in a sense of like, he's got nothing to ground himself on. So he has to kind of move around a bit. And Muhammad doesn't stop on this. He keeps going on this, as we'll hear now.
So Abu, you're not only a caliph, but also a prophet.
Can you
What?
Sorry, what was that?
I said Abu is not only a caliph, but also a prophet.
Okay.
I don't know that. Me? What a caliph, bro?
It says caliph.
Oh, right. Yes, yeah. Your name on the
caliph
in the show there.
I'm not only a caliph, I'm also a coin.
A prophet.
Prophet.
How do you mean that's the picture?
So
Because you made a
morality
prediction.
Morality is not true.
in the same way that 2 + 2 = 4 is true.
It's not truth in the same
So you telling your son don't slap someone in the face is not truth.
way. Let's put it this way. It would be hard for me to find a scenario where that would be a poor piece of advice.
Okay, no, but that's
So
your
in
opinion.
a sense, that's true.
Okay, no, in a sense, meaning in my opinion.
This gets back to the thing. It's like me saying something is absolute, and me saying it's
So
ridiculous to believe. It's ridiculous to believe the contrary. Yeah, is kind of what I'm talking about.
But you know what I was going to say is that you actually employ something without realizing there's a presupposition, which is a democratic kind of reasoning. Do you realize that?
Of course.
The democratic reasoning.
What? A democratic reasoning?
So he's basically saying to the atheist, what you're doing is you're going with what most people believe is right, and that's what you're going with.
Oh, is that
And
what
of
he
course,
calls democratic?
Yeah. So it's like moral relativism. And Dave's got a comment there, which is coming up shortly in the video anyway, which is he's going to ask him the question now. He goes, okay, well, if you think it's a majority decision, well, how about this? And so you'll ask him that question. But that's what he means by democratic. So if most people believe it's wrong to, hit somebody in the face, is that what you go with? And so he will kind of say, yes, it is. And say, well, okay, well, what about this then? So here we go.
We all are different types of people, and other of us will find
I understand that.
slightly different reasons. Some people decide things on power, some people on democracy.
If you're using a democratic reasoning, then do you accept that in 1933 in Germany?
No.
You don't accept what they did was right?
No.
The German people were wrong. The majority of the electorate, they voted for Hitler. Or the Nazi.
Okay, so T.S. Dave put in there, the Nazi Party being democratically elected is nothing to do with the subsequent takeover of the state and the eventual Holocaust. And again, it is a red herring because he's asking him to judge on the people of Germany. Most of the people of Germany weren't involved in the war in the sense of making the decisions and putting the Jews into death camps, etc., etc.
Maybe I should read the definition of red herring. Yes, because he's going to, as I said once again, he used the red herring again. According to Wikipedia, a red herring is something that misleads or distracts from a relevant or important issue. It may be either a logical fallacy or literary device that leads readers or audience towards a false conclusion. A red herring might be intentionally used, such as in mystery fiction, or as part of rhetorical strategies, e.g. in politics, or it could be inadvertently used during argumentation. And I don't know if this guy, I think that it's so common among Muslims, and it's so annoying because it's so...
Well, this is a problem for us in a sense. So it's we as non-believers. That's why I say we need to have an answer to this, because if we say, like this gentleman did, that we sort of go with the democratic view, or we allow ourselves to be painted with that brush, then immediately this question comes up. Oh, well, then how can you say that it was wrong for the Nazis? So what? And in the comments as well, I'd love for the guys in chats like TS Dave and so forth. What would you guys say to what would your response be to a Muslim who goes, oh, well, if you guys just believe that, whatever's right in the time, the majority decision rules, then how can you say that Germany is wrong? Because at that time, the majority believed that what Hitler was doing was right, regardless of the fact that probably wasn't true. That's what he wants to paint. So how would you respond to that?
Easy. You just got to say, what are Muslims doing? Are all Muslims terrorists? No. But the majority of Muslims go and condone what Muhammad did. Was Muhammad a good guy? No. Well,
as I said, this is a red herring. Why do you even address it? You should just say, come on, man, you're not that stupid. I don't know.
Rob was asking how to respond. You cannot just say it's a red herring and leave it. You need to come up with a response. You need to demonstrate that it's really, really bad.
Yeah, so you need to have a way to answer them.
Okay.
I don't even think that he is really so stupid that he believes that is a real argument. I think he is.
This is what he always does. He always does things like that.
No, he's just using it. It's a bit like taqiyya. He's using it as a rhetorical strategy to confuse him and then make him into a Muslim, or I don't know. But I don't think that he's so stupid that he really believes that that is a real argument.
I think he is that stupid.
Answer to this. But if you have moral relativism, then this is the question can be thrown at you. And you're right, it could well be a rhetorical, it could well be for the camera. But if you and ah and sound like you don't know what you're talking about, or you don't know how to defend this point, which from my point of view, there's a good defense. If you have a different moral, standard, then that might be more difficult or more easy for you. I don't know. But we need to be able to answer this very easily and concisely, because the moment you ask him, he'll rattle it off in 30 seconds, and he'll sound like it's they use the effect.
When he said democratic, did he say that something that is democratic is per definition moral? Because that's obviously false.
No, for him, democratic means populist.
Yeah, but I mean, if 51% of the population decides to gas 49% of the population, is that the morally correct thing to do?
Obviously, because it's democratic.
Yeah, but I don't think that he even thinks that. And I mean, is there anyone that thinks that?
No, but this is...
No, but he wasn't using democratic in that way. I think he misspoke. What he meant was democratic meaning, what do the majority of people believe in a society? Is that the morals that we should go with? And Dave has put in here, if you believe in subjective morality, then all you can honestly say is, I think this is the case, providing an account story of why it is the same.
But Rob, if I look at what... I think Mr. Caliph has a point. I think the actual response should be, look, what you are doing is chucking out red herrings left, right, and center. And I shouldn't actually need to address them, but I will do anyway to show how stupid they are.
Okay.
Maybe you should throw the definition. Have you ever heard about red herring? And then you memorize the definition.
I'm not so sure it is a red herring. Okay, justify for me why you think it's a red herring. Because if it's turned around on them, and we say to them, well, as T.S. David or somebody else put in the chat there about the Euthyphro dilemma, that's a valid argument against their position. Is their morals good because God commands it, or is it good intrinsically, in which case, God isn't necessary? And so, they could accuse us of doing the same thing with the Euthyphro dilemma. So I do think, just from my point of view, unless you can tell me why, I don't think it's a red herring in that sense. He's trying to poke holes in our view of how we define right and wrong. And so we need to have an answer for it. We can say it's rhetorical, which I agree with, but he is trying to poke holes in, which we would do if they said, hey, my morality comes from God and it's through the Quran. What would be your response to that? I get my morality from Allah through the Quran. What would you say to that? Because you wouldn't accept it, so you would somehow look at what's wrong with that. And I think that's what he's attempting to do here.
You spent the whole last show explaining exactly how this works.
What? Yeah, but he's well, I didn't talk about the Euthyphro dilemma, though.
No. I'm talking about morality.
Yes, yeah. But I think because you guys were saying it was kind of a red herring, so I just wanted you to explain to me why you thought it was a red herring. Him asking this question about the Nazi.
No, but when you do that
Holocaust.
over and over again, as soon as you say a valid argument and it's logical and it's not hard to address, he immediately says something completely stupid that doesn't have anything to do with what you're talking about. I mean, it's just annoying and silly.
Okay, well, let's go on and see what his response is.
I think that's a real leap to say that the Germans were in favor of, torturing the Jews like that.
I didn't say anything about Jews.
I would concede that
I didn't say anything about
there
Jews.
could have been a significant portion of them that thought that was okay.
I didn't say anything about Jews. I'm saying that 1933, if you look at the election results, democracy dictated that the Nazi Party should be in power. Is that correct then?
Is that correct?
Is that true?
I mean, it was a poor decision.
It was a poor decision. In that case, then you can't use the democratic reasoning.
It's not democratic.
Yeah, well, you've said.
Okay, so there he has talked about it in that way.
Oh, what an idiot.
Okay, I think he's going all over the show there. Because the German people in 1933 voted for the Nazi Party, it's wrong. Well, yes, in hindsight, it's wrong, but at the time, they thought it was the right thing.
Exactly, and it was.
Well, exactly. People could say the same thing about Trump. Those people that voted for Trump thought it was the right thing now. Yes. Time will tell. History will show whether that's right or wrong.
It's easy.
But that's not an argument against what he's talking about here. Yeah, that was a bad sort of... I'm not sure why he went there. Obviously, what he's attempting to do here is to show that, if your morality is based on what the majority of people say or what the majority of people believe, that's problematic, which I do agree with, at least to some degree.
Before the majority of us believe in this, but in every context,
but that's kind of unfailing over the test of time.
What do you mean by that?
I just said, name me a scenario in which case that wouldn't be a good piece of advice, and you said there isn't.
What I'm saying to you, no, I didn't say that. I said that if you're using a democratic reasoning.
Okay, these are different pieces of,
Can you choose that? Can you prove that democracy is an ultimate truth?
Of how much evidence we have for something. Is Hitler the
ultimate truth? Again,
please, what is democratic reasoning? What is that? If you use democratic reasoning, then you should like Hitler, because he was democratic elected.
Well, that's his argument. That's kind of his argument, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's exactly,
but nobody knew that at the time.
They were making the point. They love making the numbers. So why is it then so important how many Muslims there are?
I mean,
what is that in relation to?
This kind of reasoning is so low level. I don't know.
Well, Islam is so popular that 1.5 billion Muslims think it's the best. It's the ultimate truth. This is what they're always saying. So if 1.6 billion Muslims say this, there must be something to it.
Yeah, well, he would agree with that, wouldn't he?
Well, he should, yeah. Oh, what an idiot.
I was going to say something there. I lost it for a sec. So Davis said here, ask what is the Islamic position on modern morality dilemma? Stem cells research. I think, Dave, actually on stem cell research, they're okay with that. It's the Christians that have the issue with that. As far as I'm aware, when I listened to a bit on that from Sam Harris, etc., there was a bit about this stem cells.
Embryonic
and
stem cells.
Christians are. Say again, Christians are against that because they believe
the Christians. I don't know if.
Yeah, I don't think the Muslims have got a problem with stem cells. I'm not entirely sure. I can ask them.
I'm pretty sure the Prophet didn't mention embryonic stem cells.
No, the point.
I'm sure they could find a way to make a verse look like it did.
Muslims, number one, can't find anything about stem cells in any of the texts. They don't really understand it, and those who do understand are not really fundamentalist Muslims. So a Muslim will not understand that what you are actually doing is you can create human flesh, human limbs, human all sorts of things using stem cells. They don't understand that this is an act of creation now by humans. If they were to understand that, they would quickly find something against it.
Yeah, that's quite possible. Yeah. All right, let's carry on.
Is Hitler going to be a good leader if we elect him? I mean, you would have to say you don't really know. But
I have to say, this is I respect you in a sense because you've been candid with me. But I have to be honest here. The truth must come out. Yeah, my truth. I personally believe you are employing an incredible double standard, an absolutely incredible one. Why? Because when it came to talking about the fine-tuning, and when we talk about the probability, which is literally impossible to believe that the universe came about as a result of random forces.
Okay, we won't go there. We won't go there today. We'll leave the universe for the moment. Let's leave that just for now.
My goodness.
You said, well, we don't know. But when it came to something which is almost purely subjective, which cannot be proven.
What's that?
There's you in the background.
Oh, okay.
Objectively, and which the idea of someone slapping someone else as a bad thing, although you cannot prove it, you accept it. So it seems like with subjective things that you cannot prove, with no probabilistic
I made a distinction when we started this.
With no probabilistic
proving
reasoning.
Things and something having a fantastic amount of evidence are two different things.
Okay, so what has more evidence? The fine-tuning of the universe or slapping someone in the face is a bad thing?
Slapping someone in the face.
That is the most ridiculous statement.
Wait, what did
okay, so let me just give you one that little bit. Let me go back a little bit there if I can. Just bring this back a little bit.
Proving things and something having a fantastic amount of evidence are two different things.
Okay, so what has more evidence? The fine-tuning of the universe or slapping someone in the face is a bad thing?
Slapping someone in the face.
That is the most ridiculous statement I've ever heard any human being.
Wait. Slapping anyone in the face is bad ethics. That's more evidence. Is that the claim?
I don't know which is more evidence. It's a poorly phrased question. I'm not sure what he means by which is more evidence.
I think
fine-tuning of the universe or slapping somebody in the face.
I mean, he thinks that there is a lot of evidence for fine-tuning of the universe, which
is wrong.
Yes, we talk about that in another show. We could do an entire show just on that.
And then there is more evidence that slapping someone in the face is bad ethics. I mean,
he said somebody slapping in the face.
Even that is wrong.
That was a poorly phrased question, and although I think the atheist guy did answer correctly. Obviously, slapping somebody in the face is more evidence. You can see it happen, they can feel it, etc., etc. But it was the question was poorly phrased anyway. I'd be going,
it depends on the situation also. Like, say, by slapping someone in the face, you prevent the Holocaust.
Exactly.
Then, in that situation, it's probably the opposite. But he is.
Yeah, but what I think he was talking about is more towards what is true. Is it true, or is it objectively true that the universe is fine-tuned, or is it objectively true that when you slap somebody, it's bad? I think that's what he really meant to ask, but he asked it very poorly. Yeah. All right, let's carry on. I mean, I think that's a no-brainer.
Do you know, how can you prove that? I'm going to end with this.
When I said we were talking about the elephant in the tail, it's just like these are things I know about. We shouldn't hit each other.
How do you know that?
Because I live on the earth.
In that
if I
case,
get hit in the face,
so is it predisposed in you to believe that?
Huh?
Is it a predisposition?
I don't think so. I mean,
So how did it come? How did it get there?
Huh?
Was it Is it nature?
No, this is where I.
Is it nature or nurture?
You were honest in saying how ridiculous you think I am. I'm going to be honest in saying how ridiculous I think some of your things are.
Like what?
It's pretty common to say that hitting someone in the face is, not only is a bad thing to do.
So
all of us would say this, and you're coming to me like I'm saying something, like I've just snatched something out of the air.
In Germany, it
doesn't have any basis to it at all.
In Germany,
it's had a basis over the entire existence of humans.
If you're talking about commonality,
it's one of the most fundamental things about behavior that we can talk about. That's why I would say, what's more likely? Don't punch someone in the face, or whatever has happened cosmologically out there somewhere, and things that I can't describe.
And now slap him in the face.
Say again?
And now slap him in the face.
Yes, just to see if it is true or not.
I was going to say that if you're talking about commonality or what's commonplace in a society, then you have to go back to the German example.
No, we don't.
No, you don't.
Okay,
that's not common. It's not common for people to elect Hitler.
No, it was common. That happened.
It happened once.
It happened
once. It
was
a mistake.
And
it wouldn't be done again.
My question to you is this: but it's still common. If you look at the history of anti-Semitism in the West, it was common to be anti-Semitic in Germany. Yes or no?
No. I imagine it was.
I don't think the majority of Germans were anti-Semitic.
Exactly.
I think Hitler and his crew were anti-Semitic. It may have been that the propaganda got them more anti-Semitic as time went on.
Exactly.
But I don't think Germans woke up and went, "Oh, we're anti-Semitic today."
It has nothing to do with that. I mean, you can. There are. I mean, the majority of people.
You see, the biggest
problem about things. They can do that.
Well, exactly.
Actually, they do that.
They can do things that they don't know that it's wrong at the time. But here's the biggest thing. Muhammad can throw out claims and stuff like that, and it's very hard in the moment, especially speaking live like this, to go and look this up. You've got to get into the habit, and this is, I think, the only thing that I could say for Shabir, if I had to, give him some credit, is to, the moment somebody makes a claim in your mind, you go, okay, can you provide the evidence for that? Can you provide the evidence for that? It sounds like a broken record, but Muhammad is doing exactly that. Well, Muhammad, can you provide the evidence that the majority of the German people at that time are anti-Semitic, especially when Hitler was first elected or prior to Hitler being elected? Could it be that the propaganda that Hitler pumped out, much like the propaganda that's being pumped out today, may have made more people anti-Semitic? That's possible, but they weren't anti-Semitic to begin with.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Can you provide evidence for that?
Yeah, it's a good point that people should respond more often with, I don't know, I don't care, or why do you believe that?
Yeah, show me the evidence. What reasons have you got for saying that? Can you show me some studies?
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Historic thing. Otherwise, these guys just throw out claims like this. And if you throw out 5 claims in like 5 seconds, it's much harder to try and, go back and look them up. So, just wait and say, okay, well, have you got evidence for that, that, and that? Because it's much easier. Now they have to provide something rather than just throwing out a claim as they do here. I mean, he's just throwing this out that all Germans were anti-Semitic or majority of the West. I mean, where does he come with this nonsense?
Yeah.
Some, yeah.
What's that point?
Yeah. In Europe, there probably still is some, yeah.
Yes, that was common in the 1930s, yeah?
There probably still is common, but not to the same level.
If your argument is that which is common must be true, evidently, then anti-Semitism was true.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
It's just a contradiction, then. It's just a contradiction.
No, it's not.
It really is.
Anti-Semitism was true.
Now we got on to whatever's common is true is what we go with from reality. That's not what the guy was saying originally anyway. He wasn't saying what's common is what we go with. So maybe he's confusing, or maybe he's conflating common with the majority moral view.
His assumption is that being democratic is to think that the majority of the populace is always right. That's not the same thing. I mean, you can be for like democracy, or like the majority should rule, or the majority vote should be. I mean, you can be for that system without agreeing with most of the people. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but you're absolutely right. And there's a differentiation between what the populace believes and what the government enacts as policies for the country. So it's the same here in the UK or any other country.
Like the Karl Popper said. What?
I was just going to say, there's the difference between what the populace believes and what the country's leaders do. So I don't think everybody in Saudi Arabia is, a fundamentalist nutcase Islamic person who wants to chop off hands and feet. In fact, I met a few of them at Speaker's Corner. A young man who said to me, a lot of young people are questioning this religion. You'll be surprised. It never gets into the media and stuff like that. And I went, wow, that's good to hear. So there's a lot of people who don't believe in these sort of things, but the government is what sort of is shown as what the country is, like Turkey.
Yeah, I know Saudi Arabia. I think most people.
What did Karl Popper say?
No, but he has this like the good thing about democracy is like, I don't remember the exact quote, but it's not necessarily that the population will elect good rulers or they will make good decisions. It's just that it's easy to correct bad choices. You see what I'm saying? It's the correction process rather that is the good thing about democracy. So there's nothing said that. And what's interesting, why I use Karl Popper as an example, because he called himself something like liberal democracy. He was for liberal democracy.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. No, but what I mean, you don't have, you can be for democracy or liberal democracy as a political system without thinking that it will that the majority of the people will make good decisions. Maybe they will make bad decisions. But it's just that all the other ones is so bad. And it's much better to have a self-correcting process that can get rid of bad leaders quickly without bloody revolutions and war.
But this all goes back to my point. Well, how do they self-correct? On what basis do they self-correct? Do they wake up one day and say, oh, I'm feeling like better on my left side, so I'm going to self-correct because my left side feels better? What method or what standard, by what standard do people self-correct?
By what standard? Well, it's up to the people.
Yeah, but like you just said, the people are normally very pure.
Look at Merkel. Look at Merkel in Germany. She was elected. She's been chancellor for I don't know how many years now. And look at the shit she caused. Do you think that all Germans are saying, oh, yeah, we want all the refugees in Germany? No.
No, and then now they're going to and voting for this far-right party. Because
exactly. This is not going to extremes. This is
not because they like far-right politics necessarily, but because they say, okay, our politicians have completely lost their minds.
Yeah,
they're causing an irreversible problem for us.
Look at Brexit.
We better fix it quickly, unless.
Look at Brexit, where the people thought, let's teach them a lesson. Oops.
Yeah. All right, let's carry on. I've still got a bit of the video to go, yeah?
Because your argument is that is your argument.
No. You could ask me. Why don't you ask me the same question that I asked you? Is like, why is punching someone in the bad face? Why is that a bad argument on my side?
I'm just saying.
If you ask me why is electing Hitler a bad thing to do, I can explain you exactly what happened. We wouldn't do it again.
It's not. I'm just saying to you that
it's not empirically tested over time. It was tested once and it failed. Thrown out. Not part of morality. Not part of good decision making.
Someone in the face
is bad.
How do you know? How can you prove that?
I don't know, go try it, see how it works.
Very easily. The well-being of conscious creatures was negatively affected by Hitler's rule, therefore bad. End of story.
Yeah. And not slapping somebody in the face trying.
But it is more difficult if you don't have a yardstick to use. That's my point. So this gentleman, because he doesn't have the yardstick, he's kind of floundering, in my opinion, a little bit here, because he can't, every time Muhammad asks him, how is this objectively bad? You don't hear him say, well, Muhammad, it's objectively bad because X, Y, Z. You never hear him say that. So he kind of brings up his own opinion, which Muhammad keeps going, hey, well, that's your own opinion.
Yeah, but
he goes, no, but it's so he's kind of right, but he just doesn't have a strong enough foundation because everything he's saying is right, but he just doesn't have a way to ground it.
I think he has no experience with these people at Speaker's Corner.
He's been there, but I've seen him a number of times. I don't know how often he's come, but I have seen him. It's not the first time he's been there. So I don't know if he's a regular per se or how long he's been coming, but I have seen him on a couple of occasions at least. So he's not a new guy there. But the moral argument is one of the go-to arguments that these guys use. That the universe, fine-tuning, the teleological. There's basic ones that are not difficult to refute if you just do a little bit of work in them. All right, let's carry on and hear what he has to say.
No. So I'm just saying, how can you prove that as an objective
but this is what I mean.
The thing is, you have to be consistent, my friend. You really do.
And you have to be consistent by not going after things that you know are self-evident. No, you agree with me.
I can say the same thing about.
Why are you?
Can I say that?
Yeah, these type of
how's it self-evident?
Philosophical trifles are just not interesting. Can you absolutely prove that?
Can I say something?
Again. I said from the beginning, there are certain things I can't absolutely prove, but there are things that are fantastic evidence for. Punching someone in the face, being good behavior among a group of social creatures is not a good idea.
Why?
The evidence is fantastic.
What's the evidence?
Number one, it'll hurt you.
So what?
Huh?
Okay, that's the presupposition.
And you might do it back to me. I don't want it to be done. If we all go around punching each other in the face, it's going to be a horrible place to live.
So what?
If everyone in Speaker's Corner punches people...
You see what he's doing there. I mean, it is kind of funny in a way, but Muhammad is like a dog with a bone here, and so you need to have a consistent answer to stop the bone. Otherwise, he just keeps going.
Yes.
Well, how can you say that's wrong?
He's interrupting and he's pushing him further and further. Okay, how's this? No, you are the one who needs to provide the evidence.
Yeah, but to be honest, I mean, this guy is on the defending position at the moment. He hasn't gone after Muhammad, so Muhammad is. Which is what they seem to love because they're so used to defending. So I think when they get a chance like this to attack another position, it's a great thing for them, because now they don't have to defend their own position; they can attack somebody else's. And so, of course, he's going for it here.
Yeah, he needs to learn.
Punch each other in the face.
One question,
Come here.
Ken. Yes, fair enough. Ken, how can you prove the word bad exists?
Yeah, see, I'm not using bad in terms of theological concept.
No, I'm not talking about philosophically.
The consequences are not desirable. We do not want them. They're not good for society.
Consequences are not desirable.
They're not good for any objective we're trying to reach as humans.
Okay, what's the objective that you're trying to use? Reach.
We want to. I think before, it's like pleasure is preferable to pain.
Okay,
I think this is as base as you can make about.
So your argument.
This is again something I started. I know that's a presupposition, but
so
it's a
you
really
believe it.
small
So would you say you're a consequentialist?
No.
So what are you then?
Okay, I'd be interested in the comments and for you guys to answer me this. I'm not sure that there's any human on the planet who understands what that means that isn't at least partially a consequentialist.
Exactly.
In other words, we all, to some degree or other, more or less, believe that consequences, that the consequences of our actions are what defines morality in some sense. Now, I know there's other moralities, deontology, et cetera, out there, but I'd be interested in the comments, or if any of you guys said, no, consequentialists, the consequence of our actions have nothing to do with my morality. I'd be very interested in anybody who says that.
Oh.
But consequentialism, the term, has got a bad rap, because there are examples where there's some head scratches. Well, if you know the consequence of action, can you judge whether it's right or wrong? Now, if this was put to me, I go, do you know what? Consequentialism or any other moral, ethical standard, none of them are perfect, but we use them all to some degree, more or less, like deontology with not ethics or goals. There's another term for it. But basically, there's different versions of ethics that we have, and so all of us, to some degree, use consequentialism. Maybe not. We don't use the word necessarily, but we think about the action, which is exactly what he's talking about: hitting somebody in the face. Anyway, let's go on.
So you just live in life, right? Just following the herd.
I don't follow the herd.
No, you are.
You know by talking to me, I'm not a herd follower.
No, but I'll tell you something, my friend. Because what it is you are. You're following popular culture without having any reasoning.
I would say you're following the herd, being a Muslim.
No, but I've given you questions, critical questions, which you haven't been able to give me consistent results for.
Yeah, and I said at the beginning, you and I are laying in the same bed when it comes down to this, because you're attacking the bedrock of my decision making, and I would attack yours in the saying that you're pinning your hopes on the presupposition that you're in contact with someone who has 100.
Hello there.
No.
That's the first thing you stop him. What your presupposition that God exists is based on evidence? Please provide it.
That's a lie.
In the history of the world, nobody's been able to do that. Otherwise, we'd all be, to some degree, believers. I'd be a very unhappy believer, but I'd be a believer because I have no choice if I'm intellectually honest. So this would be the time for him now to get off the defensive and get on the defensive and go, okay, you've just said this, please give me the evidence.
Exactly. But the thing is, what these people don't understand is that there is no absolutist thing and no absolutist solution. The thing is that
correct.
I'm not somebody, absolutely. I go and dress the way that I am expected to dress. In other words, if I go to a client, I will wear a suit. So yes, there I am a herd follower. But then if I am not going to a client, I'll go in jeans and t-shirts. So there I will go and dress in the way that I feel comfortable. And I am not a herd follower. So if people go on holiday to, I don't know, some place that everybody thinks is wow, I will not do that because there I'm not a herd follower. But the thing is, if people say, wow, there's a new sport out there which does this, like kite surfing, okay? I mean, that didn't exist 10 years ago. So it came up over the last 10 years, and I think it's brilliant. So am I a herd follower just because I like something that somebody else has come up with? I don't think so.
Yeah.
100% of the answer.
It's evidence.
That is an absolutely massive
But that's
claim.
proven by what I was just talking to you about. If you take my line of argument, which is not, we haven't even referred to scripture, because you said to me before that it's all based on scripture. It's not based on scripture. What I'm saying is, if you take my line of argument, there's evidence to suggest that God exists, which is the following, which I told you. Yeah.
It's a hypothesis. I agreed. It's a possible hypothesis.
Everything requires some level of faith.
It could be false.
Everything.
It could easily be false.
Everything requires some level of faith. Everything, even your own existence. To believe in your own existence requires some level of faith.
No, it's not faith.
Okay, yeah, this is where they get onto this, isn't it? They use the word faith very differently than us as non-believers. We believe in, good evidence. Can the evidence change or be wrong? Sure, but that's not the same as faith. Faith is belief without evidence, essentially. And so there's definitely, that's not the same thing. I don't believe something without some kind of evidence or good reasons, whereas the belief God, they think they do. And of course, that's why they're trying to equate faith. We have faith and so do they. That one particularly irks me because I think they know that's not true, but they like to think that it's true because then we're on even footing. It doesn't make them look so bad.
Very small amount.
No, that's in your opinion. Some philosophers took this very seriously. I mean, I'm saying to you that, as I said to you before, you require to take rationalism and empiricism. All of those things have to be taken as for granted as presuppositions. Right? No, but that's the idea. It's working. It's not. It's something. Just because something is working doesn't mean it's true. Doesn't mean it's your experience that's working.
The evidence again. The evidence is fantastic that it's working.
Okay, so I would say
it's fantastic. I would say that
no evidence. I would say the evidence. Would you say that the evidence for fine-tuning of the universe being set by an entity is fantastic?
No.
Okay. In that way, I would say that
the fact that they're constants.
Yeah.
The evidence for them being constants is
in that way,
fantastic.
I'll say one more thing before we leave. Yeah.
Okay, I think I'll stop it there because we're going to go into the cosmological here. Just to finish off that last little bit there. He made a good point, the atheist. The guy said, do you think there's overwhelming evidence for the fine-tuning? And he correctly said, no, I think there's overwhelming evidence for the constants. That's a crucial thing. And I think if anybody has this argument, it's something that I will remember when I have the conversation as well, is to basically say, yes, there's overwhelming evidence that seems to suggest that there are constants in the universe. That does not imply that they are finely tuned, because what does finely tuned mean? You will say that it's finely tuned for life. What sort of life? Human life, life on this planet. How do you know that there's not life elsewhere? And what do you mean by life? If the constants were changed, on what basis can you say that life of some kind would not evolve? And the moment you can then give me some hypothesis that shows that with the constants changed, that some other life that we can't at the moment imagine, like machines or whatever, couldn't evolve, then you've got a point. Up until this point, no, you don't. Or we can say that the constants themselves are fine-tuned.
I think physicists can say that it's very unlikely that life will evolve in a universe where the constants are set in a certain way. But it's quite hard to know.
We don't know what life is. We don't know what the criteria is for life to exist. Could life exist within a universe that has different constants to what they do now? How can somebody demonstrate that life can't exist? And the moment you accept that life could exist with some other version,
it's hard to know. But I think you can tweak the constants in such a way that, it wouldn't work, or it most likely wouldn't work. But even if say that it's only in 1% of the constants, and it doesn't have to be the constants as in our universe. Maybe it's like, say that if we call our universe as constant, we call it 3.5, for example. I don't know, but we just call it that. And maybe 4 and 4.5 can't give rise to life, but 5.3 can also give rise to life, and also 8.7. But also 1.4 can also give. You know what I'm saying? Some of the
challenge is, I don't think
can give
we
rise.
We will never know because we don't have any other universes that we can investigate, and we don't know what other sort of life is possible with different constants.
No, we won't know for sure, but I think we can, with quite good reason, suspect that if we tweak the constants in a certain way, there is very low likelihood that anything.
On what basis would you make that statement? How would you be able to demonstrate that? Because if you said that to me, I'd say to you, okay, Abu, how do you demonstrate that?
I can't be sure, but I mean, you can demonstrate. Okay, I have to think about that, but I think that's
the correct answer is I can't be sure. In which case,
no, that is, of course I can't be sure, but there are many things I can't be sure of that
Yeah, but you said there's good reasons to think that if the consciousness were changed, that life couldn't evolve, or it's unlikely that life could evolve. And my question would be to anybody who says that: on what basis do you make that what basis do you come to that conclusion? How do you know life? Because you need to know what the parameters are for life. And all we know about is the limited amount of life on this planet. We don't know what else is out there in the universe, or what could have, what is or can evolve with different constants, because we only think about it for us. You know, that's, and the analogy I think is
some kind of process of natural selection, I think, is universal. I believe.
No, we don't know that. I mean, we only know that on Earth. No, exactly. I think so. That's the end of that.
We don't have to go into that. But anyway, the point is this fine-tuning thing. Even if it's only 1% of all the possible fine-tuning, so even a percent of a percent of a percent of a percent, it doesn't matter, because in a vast multiverse there will always be some tiny fraction of all the possible universes where the constants are just right.
Yeah, so life will evolve somewhere. But the real answer is we don't know. But getting back to the sort of main thrust of his argument and theists in general is they require certainty. And if you can't give them certainty, which they pretty much know we as non-believers can't, then that sort of gives them license to, believe whatever or to assert something as more reasonable because we don't know for sure. And I think that's a huge mistake, which obviously, I do my best to point out, but that sort of goes over people's head. I think if you are a theist and somebody can't give you a concrete argument against your position, and you haven't done any sort of skeptical thinking, you will just go, well, my position is right. You can't defeat my position. Well, my position is right then. Till you can defeat my position, even if I don't have a good reasons myself, my position is right. So you've got to defeat my weak position. Otherwise, I'm going to hold on to it. Yeah, it stops. It does look like you lost your connection. You dropped off there. So yeah, stops. I did see you drop off there a little earlier. But I think we've had a good 2-hour show there, a little over 2 hours. Any votes or thoughts for next week's show? So anybody in the chat, or Abu, if you've got any thoughts, what we could discuss next week, feel free to post those or to
no
thoughts.
One thing that I realized was that there are a lot of interesting books that you could review, but I don't know if we have time to read them.
You could, but you'd have to sort of give a one-page summary, and then we could talk about it. So it's a case of a bit like that. Yeah, I mean, if you've read something already and you can put together, some bullet points for us to talk about, a bit like I did with the moral landscape. If there's a book like that, what I might do is we could talk about cosmology from the sense of, because I have read multiple times Lawrence Krauss's book, The Universe from Nothing. The challenge with that is then it just becomes more about cosmology rather than, although I suppose what we could do is weave in, the common Muslim arguments and what we could say, if we knew a little bit about, Lawrence's book or any of those sort of things, because one of their go-to arguments is always, the cosmological arguments.
They do that all the time. Yeah. Yes.
So, any thoughts? I'm just going to. Any thoughts from the chat or from anybody else? I mean, what we could do next time is we could call it Islamic cosmology, which is essentially basically the Kalam, William Lane Craig's version of the Kalam cosmological argument. There's a lot that's been said on that. Obviously, there's probably been other shows on it as well, but it's a go-to, because when I ask Muslims, what do you believe and why, one of their first things, and it's probably a trained thing, it's not the thing that they really believe, it's not the reason they believe in theism, but one of the first things, well, how did everything come about the way it is? It just looks, that you can't tell me that this all came about, through random chance. This must have had a creator. This whole universe is just magnificent, etc. So cosmology, yes. Okay, so we've got a few people there. So all right, let's do that then. So I'll call it Islamic cosmology, which will essentially be the Kalam cosmological argument, and then we can take that, we can look at that. So if over the week, guys, you've got some thoughts on that, I've got some thoughts, and I've got some good videos. that some people have done that's worth listening to, because you'll often get, if you get involved with the theist, you'll often get, confronted with the cosmological argument. So it's good to be able to delve into that, particularly that first premise, everything that begins to exist as a cause. So that's one to start with. Most people grant that straight off the bat, and that's extremely problematic. So with that said, thank you so much to everybody. Thank you, Abu.
Hadith of the day also.
Oh, sorry. Yes,
I can just take anyone. We can take from Sahih Bukhari, narrated by Anas. As if I am just now looking at the dust rising in the street of Bani al-Ghubar. Sorry.
No worries.
No, Bani Ghanam, sorry. As if I am just now looking at the dust rising in the street of Banu Ghanam in Medina, because of the marching of Gabriel's regiment when Allah's apostle set out to Bani Qurayza to attack them. So, once again, Islamic ethics. Remember what happened after that, after the attack.
Indeed. Great, thank you very much.
Were massacred. Okay.
Yeah, that's for sure. Hadith of the day to finish us off. Thank you to everybody who's on the show, who's been in the chat. Thanks to Abu and to Stops for co-hosting. And look forward to speaking next Friday, 8 p.m. and we'll call it Islamic Cosmology. Thanks, everybody.
Cheers.
Take care.